All right.
I haven't seen it for years, but, you know, it's commensurate with the towns around us, so what?
Yeah. All right, tonight is Tuesday, January 12th. This is the advisory committee meeting. We have a quorum, so we're good to go. So on the docket for this evening, we're going to interview Craig Lauer for an open advisory committee vacancy. And then we're going to talk to the planning board and board of appeals. From there, the veterans agent. After that, board of health, nursing, building inspector to follow, and then wrap things up with capital planning. So, Craig, you're here. Come on down. I know Linda sent around, I'm trying to think if I saw a brief email somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, you're here, and you've been at several of the past meetings, you know, that we've had this cycle as well as towards the tail end of last cycle. So tell us a little background on yourself and
I've been here,
go from there.
yeah, I've been here on Main Street 18 years or so. So you got 2 kids in the Neshoba school system,
Mhm.
years and freshmen in high school. I'm a technical leader or a architect at the Cisco Systems up the street. Been there for 15, 16 years.
That's an easy commute.
Yeah.
You want right in Boxborough?
6, 7 miles back roads.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place to work if you ever get a chance. Anyway, let's see. Let's see. Financially, I have no accounting background. I have a computer science degree and a physics degree. Let's see. I'm good with numbers in general. I handle all my affairs that way. Let's see. As part of my job, it's my part of my tasks is to understand the needs of the customer before they themselves necessarily know them, so we can plan for work to be done. Get it done on time.
So how do you go about doing that?
I have a lot of experience, as you guessed, in the computing industry, networking industry.
Yeah.
And I'm usually pretty good at guessing.
Alright.
I can sometimes take some data from other customers, you know, get some idea of what they're going to need.
Yeah. So what is appealing to you on joining this committee?
Well, you have 2 openings.
Yeah.
You had one when I looked into joining before. I thought I could help you out. That's about it. I've become more interested in town affairs lately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about it, I guess. So if you'll have me, fine. If you want to think about it, fine too.
You okay with Tuesday evenings pretty much from here to May?
Yeah, I'm usually available.
Yeah.
And occasionally some in the summer?
Yeah.
After the meeting?
Yeah, I was there, but a couple in June, July last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's generally it. We, you know, this is the busy time. We're generally here, you know, every Tuesday night. Occasionally there's a detour, and then, you know, we often meet maybe once or twice, a couple times during the summertime, and even into the fall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a couple times depending upon what's going on.
Yep.
And we'll make a few selectmen's meetings during
Yeah.
the 6
Mhm.
month,
Yeah.
5 month.
I've been going to most of them recently anyway.
kind of, yeah.
And sometimes some of us go to school committee meetings once in a while.
Yeah, I've been thinking about doing that too. I have to review some of them in recent, interesting goings on there.
Yeah, I mean, it is all helpful. You know, the school committee, the school budget, you know, obviously represents a big piece of the town. You know, budget, we have purview over, you know, what's in front of us. You know, there's tri-town meetings as well, and you know, there's not a formal policy. You know, we try and communicate with one another, see if anyone can go. I will say that I should probably make more selectmen's meetings than I do. And so therefore, Tri-Town is definitely not gonna happen, but I should be at some of those as well. So we try and hit those various meetings just to kind of keep up to speed
Yeah.
here and there, so. Other questions for Craig?
Are you ready to start?
Yeah, well, I'll entertain a motion to accept Craig onto advisory. This term would be, since you're filling, a spot vacated, this would go through the end of June of this year, and then, then the process will take care of itself from there, so. Yeah.
I so move. Second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. You're welcome.
So I assume we gotta get sworn in or something like that?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, take your seat.
sure,
If there's anybody upstairs right now.
yeah.
You could go get it.
All right, let's see here. I'm trying to do a better job of keeping track of things, so I don't have to go and watch a videotape of this all over again. Do a note. All right, next up, Erica, you're here. Come on down. So this is 175 and 176, guys. How are you this evening?
Pretty good, how are you?
Doing well?
I have same as last year, backup sheet for you. My budget. So for planning board, wages, I have $55,182. That's the same number you have. For purchases of service, I have $1,300. I've reduced that by $85 from last year. This money would be used for, if the planning board needed to hire a consultant engineer. This year, we revised our subdivision rules and regulations, so we used that budget for that. Looking into next year, we potentially could use it for updating our zoning map, depending on the outcome of town meeting. Advertising, I've set that at $520. I've reduced that from $750 from last year.
Yeah.
Supplies, $250, that stayed the same.
Oh, sorry.
In-state travel, $500, that stayed the same. And then underneath, you can see through the spreadsheet, I accounted for the various meetings that I would be attending for that. And then dues, $255 for APA membership, and then under meetings, I have $600 for attending various conferences and workshops.
Okay. And so, tell me about advertising. Legal
Advertising.
notices.
Yeah, so that's legal notices in the paper. The $520 would cover essentially 4 hearings, because you need to advertise twice for each hearing.
Mhm.
And I think that's a reasonable number to sort of at this point. Originally, we had set it at $750 for last year, because the year before that, we had sort of a unprecedented number of hearings, so we thought we needed to bump it, but that number's gone back down, so I feel comfortable with the $520.
And so on average, how many hearings have been taking place over the past couple of years? Do you have a sense?
I don't have a number off the top of my head. Probably in the 4 to 7 range, somewhere in there.
Okay. And this update on the zoning map.
Yes.
This is different. This was there was I remember last year there was back and forth, it was from the Conservation Commission on getting a certain map certified or a plan certified so as to be in a better position for accessibility to receive grant money. This is something completely different.
This is something completely different. I think you're talking about the open space
Space
plan.
plan, that's.
Yeah, that's completely, totally
Okay.
separate. This is just literally our base zoning map that shows all the zoning districts on it. If we were to make any changes at town meeting this year that relate to those zoning districts, we would need to update that.
So that, the update of that map is dependent upon what takes place.
Exactly. And what gets passed at town meeting.
And if I remember correctly from the planning board, there was this conversation from a few years back that the bylaws are to be a living, breathing document, constantly subject to change. So the expectation is, if that's going to be changing, we're going to be talking about it at town meeting, subsequently this zoning map is going to be updated.
Right, right. So for example, last year we updated the
It's
zoning
amazing how
map.
they all play into one another.
Yeah. Perfect example, last year we updated it based on the mixed-use village overlay district getting passed. So it'd be sort of the same idea for this year.
Okay. You guys have any other questions?
No, I like the detail.
Yeah. So that's 175.
Yes.
Okay.
And then DVA is really straightforward. There's
Yeah.
a backup sheet for that. It's $200
Exactly.
for advertising, $100 for 40B permitting, and there's not a whole lot of explanation on that.
All right. Is everyone on the committee okay with 175 and 176 as indicated in this?
If that's a motion, or it's an entertaining a motion, I'll so
Well,
move it.
yes. Go ahead, no, go ahead.
No, I just thought you were asking.
Well, I was asking a question because then I was gonna get,
We're comfortable. I think everybody.
because namely, you know, we're, at the end of tonight's meeting, we're gonna go back and clean up some of last week, so,
So we should move, someone should move to approve these two budgets as,
yeah, so I'll entertain a motion to accept these two budgets, 175, 176, as Erica has laid out in her detail sheet and as indicated on this budget worksheet.
So moved.
second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right. So,
All right, thank you.
have a nice evening. Hey, how are we doing on the sign update?
We're doing good, we're moving forward. We've decided to go a different direction with the engineering study. We're gonna look at using volunteers instead. So Bob Rummer has an excellent background in engineering, and I think we're gonna try and use him.
Very good.
That's,
Fabulous.
Yeah.
All right, so we're running a little ahead, so why don't we take this opportunity to go back in time, if you will. Last week, we had the town accountant before us, and, which is budget 135. And I'm looking through last week's sheet. We did not have any issues, concerns regarding her budget. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the town accountant's numbers as indicated in the budget worksheet.
So,
I second it.
All those in favor of accepting town accountant, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Let's see. We, animal control, which was 292. So there was no changes to 292. Ms. Latham did explain to us that she's likely going to need some type of microprocessor chip, but the numbers remain as is. So I'll entertain a motion to accept animal control as is.
You want to clear the total dollars on that?
Yeah, total, sure. Total request of 19,729.
So moved.
Second. I think it was a chip leader that she said at some point she's on.
All those in favor of animal control at 19,729?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Let's see. Then we had Ms. Powell, 162, 161, 62, and 63. So in 161, the requested was 95,316, which is an overall decrease of over 18,000. 162 is increased slightly over the previous year because there's an upcoming presidential election year. So 162 requested FY17 coming in at 10,145. And then 163 is remaining as is, street listings and registrars at 2105. So I'll accept a motion to approve 161, 162, 163 as is.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Let's see, Historical Commission,
We're gonna wait on that one. Don't you wanna find out about the price of doing 5 signs,
oh, yeah.
2 signs?
Yep, that's right, we'll hold off on historical. And then, so library, so library is 610. And,
Now remember, any amount that you talk about increasing is also has to take into account an increase in the book total too, the amount spent.
Well, they're looking at their estimated fuel spends, and likely they'll go down, but they may stay the same.
yeah,
And that would possibly change the book amount. But the library's not final enough, I don't think, to vote on.
yeah, no, I didn't plan on
They're
voting
still
on it.
going, they're still dealing with that issue about the position.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's
So then,
more important than fuel.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple of things. So we were having a conversation with the library, and we're going through various things, and this is where we essentially, I woke up and realized that we really hadn't been, kind of approving the budgets as is. But it also brought up, another point, because, we're gonna look at, heating, and I've asked Ninotchka to put together a few more stats for us to kind of just take a look at various items. But, as the budget was presented, as is, a conversation ensued around looking for additional hours to add on to one additional person. So there's a full-time salaried individual, then there's a number of part-time individuals. Now, I would like to think that one of us would have asked the question, but at the same time, they were, very forthcoming and explained that if we were to approve these additional 2 hours, that it would put this person into a benefited position. they also indicated that the numbers for the salary and wages lines that are already in the budget does assume that we were going to approve these additional 2 hours. So in the course of, from that conversation, we all agreed that we needed more data on what benefits look like. So,
Application.
yeah, so I reached out to Donna, and so, Donna provided me some information, and so, when someone becomes benefited, and furthermore, there was this question of, what if someone, hits 20 hours in the course of this week? Oh, they went over 20 hours, they have to be, benefited. No, that is not the case. It's a time period, it's a collective time averaged over a certain time. The bottom line is, at the point that someone becomes benefit eligible, and again, Donna gave me some estimates, but she said, on the low side, from a health insurance perspective, it's about an additional $4,500 per year. Retirement would also play into this, and so there was a rough estimate there of around, I want to say it was $2,000 or $4,000 a year. So all in for an individual is around an additional $8,500. If it were a family plan from a health insurance perspective, the number was somewhere in the neighborhood of around $11,000, $12,000, and then retirement again. So, you add that in, that's another 15 grand. So, so that's an awful lot. From there, I asked Donna, to take a look at, various other possibilities. And so, I haven't yet gotten back to the library on that, but, from what we've been able to learn, it appears as though, there's some opportunity to reevaluate the scheduling. There was one proposal of adding another person on at that 15 hours. That is a possibility, but at the same time, they don't necessarily need another 15 hours, they're just looking for 2, right? So the fact of the matter is that, so another option is to accept as is and, add on salary, and then benefits. Potentially go out and look for another person. They didn't seem to like that one. And then the other option is look at scheduling efficiencies. And so, I've got some data here, and what I'm going to do is put all this together, get it into the hands of the library folks, and then ask them to come back in. And we can wait because to Ted's point, there's some other areas that we're looking to talk to library about anyway. So
Maybe somebody can help me. When they were talking about an extra 2 hours to cover a shift because of illness or whatever, right? I didn't get that. How does 2 hours help in the overall schedule of covering a shift?
yeah, so I think it was namely around just from my perspective, it was the volume of people that they presently have, and working with those 5 or 6 part-timers, keeping them under that 20-hour time period, given the present hours of operation that they have per week at the library.
But they weren't talking about covering somebody for 2 hours. They were talking about covering someone a whole shift. So how does this employee who is 18 hours, you bump her to 2, I can't wrap my head around it. Maybe somebody
We
can
need to ask
explain
the
it to
question
me.
when we meet with them.
Did you catch?
Yeah, I got some idea of it. So the way I understand it, everyone's scheduled at 18 hours. The first person who doesn't show up for a shift costs them 4 hours. I think they're 4-hour shifts. So that 4 hours has to be distributed among the other 4 people that are part-timers. The second time that happens during a particular week, they all jump to 20 hours, obviously, because they have to cover another shift. So I think the idea was that by having those extra 2 hours all the time, they could apportion the absences to the other people and keep them all under 20 hours.
But as we
More
learned,
like
20
it.
hours is not, keeping someone under 20 hours is not is not really a problem. I mean, it's okay if they go to 20 hours, because their
Yeah.
concern was that it was gonna cost us in benefits,
Right.
and they'll have to be benefited.
So exactly, one, it's just because they hit the 20 mark,
Doesn't
you know, it's gotta,
automatically
they've gotta
fall.
be consistently hitting the 20-plus hours per mark to then be
That person.
aggregated over the course of the year.
Would it be possible to ask Donna or somebody at the library how close we were this year to triggering the benefits thing? I don't know the details of the 20-hour deal.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
if-
what I can say is, I mean, you know, I looked back, and Donna helped to get this information, but, you know, we took a look back and, you know, from the wages line, you know, there was, over the past few years, from the wages line, there was money left at the end of the year. So as we all know, when the money was left at the end of the year, it ends up going towards snow and ice. If that's already been taken care of, then it just rolls over into free cash for the following. And I can understand that phenomenon happening, you know, in a DPW situation, even a police or an ambulance, because they have to budget. They don't necessarily know how often there's going to be an overtime situation or a snowstorm, things like that, right? I'm less understanding of how that plays into in a library situation. So, you know, there's evidence to say that money has been apportioned to them and it hasn't all been used. So, and I know there's some in the crowd that will say, right there, then that is ripe for not offering moving forward. So, welcome back, Dave.
That was,
We missed you last
we missed you, yes, we did,
I'll
Dave.
put a call in.
It was an extended golf season this year.
Good for you.
My last round was December 26th. 50 degrees and sunny, very nice. A point on the benefits. I believe you will also increase your OPEB expenditure as well as your, and it's probably just a small amount, but it seems to me it would be worthwhile for the committee to know how much extra OPEB charge you incur by moving someone to benefits.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like, just from the timing of things, you know, we have some additional information, and, you know, I thought it fair to get that into the hands of library for them to comment on, and then bring everyone back and discuss. But you're absolutely right. You know, that is a trigger. Now, you know, one can counter that by saying, oh, well, taking a look at the staff changes from last year to this year from a, you know, OPEB perspective and longevity, there's, quote, long-timers that have subsequently left. That's, you know, either here nor there. I mean, I'm gonna choose to look at this in a particular vacuum as it relates to library. So that's where we are there with library. Like I said, I'll put together an email with all the various data points, forward it off to the library folks. Give them an opportunity to comment. And that will also allow us some time to continue to look at various other components, and then we'll work on scheduling and bringing them back in. Does that sound like a plan for everyone? All right. So, next we have on the docket, let's see, we have Mr. Cabral. Come on down, sir.
All right.
And guys, this is line item 543. Alright. So this is a little tricky one. It's at the bottom of one page and the top of another, so. How are you, sir?
Good.
So what do you have to share with us this evening?
Well, other than I'm just requesting the same as last year. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Haven't added any veterans. We haven't lost any veterans that were on this program.
And that is clearly the driving force, as it relates to veterans services.
Yes.
The number of veterans clearly dictates what these numbers do, whether increase or decrease.
Right. Yep.
All right,
And that I can't predict.
understandable.
Yeah.
But if you will, if you would, and I vaguely remember this, but could you please take the time to explain again the whole process? Because if I remember correctly, it seemed as though the town of Bolton front loads this money, money subsequently goes out the door, services are consumed, paid for.
Right?
While at the same time, there's an invoice, if you will, that makes its way back to the state or the feds to determine something, and then we subsequently get money back.
You get money back. Right.
But not at the exact.
No, it's at 75% you get back.
So,
It
yeah,
takes about a year for the state to reimburse.
so what I just explained was exactly it.
Yes, exactly. Except the state doesn't really hurry to pay you back, that's it.
No.
But that's
Alright.
the state. Yeah.
And so the number that we get back from the state,
Is your 75%.
okay, and that is not subject to change. When we hear a story that says
They try to
the
go.
governor is trying to, slim down by 50
Nope.
million,
No,
Number
that
is-
stays, that's gonna stay. They're trying to go to 100% back,
uh-huh.
but it costs a lot of money for the state. Right now, it's, actually, I have a meeting at the State House next Tuesday. And I'm sure that'll be brought up, but it's gonna stay at 75%, for sure. Yep. Unless maybe the governor wins the Powerball and donates some money to the state.
Yeah.
The only addition, well, we had it last year, the $500 for our Veterans Day breakfast, which went pretty good, very well, actually. Had a lot more guys this year. That's really the only change from years back.
How many veterans do we have, 2015, or how many,
That went to
this
the-
chart here, that we had 2, 14,
In the town of Bolton?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, I mean, here it says we did service for 2, and I just wondered
Oh,
if
yeah,
that's still
3.
2 or
3.
3.
Yeah. Well, let me see. Let me stop and think. One is an actual veteran, the other 2 are widows.
This was a mass.gov,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, so there's 3 total.
You said in the town of Bolton,
Yes.
so we're only taking care of,
Pardon?
these numbers only represent Bolton.
Yes, yes,
All right.
right.
So, I guess I'm wondering about the question. Do you cover another town?
I cover Berlin also.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Berlin's numbers aren't anywhere in here, right?
No, no, no.
Okay.
Entirely
So I could care
separate.
less about that.
Entirely separate.
All right, okay.
No,
Other questions, guys?
Are we gonna be getting more veterans? Is that what?
well, I can't.
You can't, nobody can answer.
Hopefully not, but if you get a veteran that falls on hard times,
Right.
needs some assistance, then
Don't worry about that. An extra.
then we'll have to come back and,
Sure.
you know.
And that was the big increase from last year, right? It went
The
from-
500?
No, in terms of veterans benefits, it was from actual 15 to approved 16.
Well,
You know, it went from 7,900 up to 16,800, and that was because there was an additional veteran that was added on from the, over the course of the year.
I have last year 12,000 for veterans benefits.
Yeah.
And
So-
the year before was 11,116.
Right.
Yeah, so the budgeted was 12,
Mhm.
the actual came out to 79.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yes, yeah.
Then the approved last year
It
was
was
16,800. And that's the same number, 16,800 now. Bear with me for 1 second. Alright, yeah, they're running, yeah, pretty much on target. Any other questions, guys? Alright. Well, if no other questions, I'll accept a motion to accept Veteran Services, line 543, requested FY17, remaining level relative to 16/22/390.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Sir, you're all set. Have a nice evening. Thank you very much for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Let's see here.
Chris Slade.
Yeah.
838.
We'll run,
He's driving.
so we caught up from last week, so, you know, we're still waiting on some information from historical, and I need to get some information back to the library. The changes that historical did come in with, I did forward those on to Notchka, and she made the associated changes. So that's where we are. So, there's, what I asked Linda to provide to us was just an overview of the, excuse me, the full agenda, you know, upcoming. So, you know, there is some potential changes on that front there. We'll talk more about that. But any questions so far, or any concerns that have? It doesn't look as though that we're listed for school vacation week. Pretty certain I'm gonna be around. You won't be. Yeah, we can talk about that, maybe we can, because I do have some concerns to follow, but we can take that off camera. All right, so we are waiting for the Board of Health. Any questions from the audience?
I suppose Chris is out plowing?
We'll talk to you later, right?
What?
It's got a few minutes.
Oh, that's
I should find out, my wife's a member of the Public Ways Safety Committee. I assume that doesn't affect my appointment. Okay, just want to make sure. On the topic of the 15-hour, the new 15-hour person for the library I had mentioned, I actually suggested at the same time decreasing the other temporary or part-timers by
Yeah.
2 or 3, 4 hours, whatever is necessary, and that didn't seem to be well received.
I really didn't.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I don't think that would work, but it's a good idea.
You know what? It seems sometimes people have a hard time understanding that you gotta do what you gotta do. You have to do it.
Yeah, I think there's some efficiency opportunities there.
Yeah.
Could be scheduling.
Yeah.
Another possibility, and it wouldn't be well received, I imagine. They warned of not being able to staff the library on occasion because of not having the ability to get those 20 hours, you know, if there's sicknesses and such. And it probably wouldn't be well received, but there's always the chance you just close those days, you know. If it happens once a year, I don't know that there'll be complete chaos in town. It's obviously not a desirable outcome, but if
Yeah,
the
I
worst
mean,
case is that, then
Yeah, I mean, I understand this concept of, you know, there's 2 floors and there needs to be coverage
Yeah.
on both floors, you know. I don't know the layout of the library,
I
but
wonder if
that's...
they could close.
Yeah.
One floor,
That,
but
they're over on the.
Mr. Slade, you can come on down, so.
They're over on the.
Hey, everybody just,
So
oh,
you
wait,
wanna
we're
drop
waiting.
that percentage.
We're all waiting. We were ahead of ourselves. That's good.
Yeah, we're running, we're slightly running ahead. So folks, this is Mr. Slade, Board of Health, and this is we have line 439. Let's start there. All right, so 439. Would be well monitored.
The same thing as last year.
Yeah. So,
We've been trying to reduce that as much as we can without leaving ourselves open to somebody accusing us of being negligent to our neighbors for the landfill and the gas. So I think we ought to do it a little bit longer, at least. See, I will make an effort, talk to our LSD and see if we can phase it out somewhere along the line here.
so so if you wouldn't mind providing just a little additional background on
All right.
the history of this, when did it happen, why are we doing this, how long have we been paying this?
We had, I'm not sure, since before I was on the board. We had 2 incidences, both of which could affect our people downstream. One was we had the landfill there. And we still could have a plume moving, although every year it's less likely now that we have it capped. And then we had a gasoline tank at the town barn. The tank itself didn't leak. The plumbing got put together improperly, so it leaked out of the plumbing, which is very unlikely because all it could leak out, it came out of the top. But each time the pump got used, a little bit trickled out of the pipe. And it got into a bit of a fiasco cleaning it up, quite frankly. I don't think the people we hired in the beginning really advised us to go at it correctly. However, after a couple of years of that, we got some input from DEP and the rest, and they went along with a different approach, namely, dig out the most polluted dirt and get it off-site. Pumping and treating was not going to work. So that we did that, and then all of a sudden the numbers started to drop quite quickly. That's one of those things DEP hates to let go. They'll tell you you're doing fine, but
Yeah.
it's very hard to get them to sign off that you're now clean.
So the number requested for this year is $6,100. It was the same number as requested last year. From 15, and I was, can you share with us why there was no actual number in 15? We had some numbers for 13, 14, so it was about 5,900 for 13, actual number 6,000, a little over 6,000 for 14. There's a budgeted number for 74, so there's about a $1,400 increase from 14 to 15, but then there was an actual number of 0. Is there something going on in our spreadsheet that,
I'm gonna have to do some research on it for you, sir.
you see what I'm looking at right here? It goes from 54 actual to
Yep.
6,000, budgeted, but then goose egg.
Okay.
So, and I was, do you remember, Connie?
I don't.
All right, let me, I'm gonna have to do some research for you.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I do not have that on the top of my head.
yeah. All right. And I should, it's my fault, because I should have shot you a note earlier, so that you had the opportunity. But if you want,
I can look it up and get back to you on it.
yeah,
I'll get it back.
That shouldn't affect the request for this.
no, I was
Just a
just,
point of interest.
No, but
Yeah,
it is
just-
a point of interest, and you're entitled to an answer. You should have a plausible excuse of why it is that way.
all right. So that was 439. So now we move on to 510, which is human services.
Yep.
So in that overall, from approved 16 to requested 17, there's a decrease of a little over $8,000. So I will commend you on that. I'm interested to hear what's that a result of? Looks like it's a decrease from the wages, the big piece of it, from wages, from 33,000 down to 24. So did you lose someone?
No, the wages for the animal inspector are there.
Yeah.
Those wages would be for our secretary, or administrative assistant, I should say, which is currently Jenny and was Michelle. Now, yeah, I'm not sure what was done, to be honest with you. What we have is a situation that we certainly don't need these kind of numbers for an administrative assistant. But her entire wage has always been put into our budget. We don't really care, and I often mention this, but she also serves as the permitting person, taking all the calls from the building inspector, assisting him, wiring inspector, plumbing inspector, as well as often just sort of assisting Linda, or if Linda's out, taking Linda's place. So it's always been a number that sort of gets put on us, and it's why we took some of it and put it somewhere else, I do not know.
Okay. And then everything else is remaining as is. The only slight uptick is the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health, and I'm assuming that's just a number that they give you that there's nothing you can do about it?
Actually, that was 4%, and Jenny had plugged that in. And that number only went up 3% in our assessment, so that can go to $11,425.06.
11,426. Okay.
Yeah, 11/4/25/06. And these increases are basically just due to our increasing cost. We've actually been a little slow on the dime here. You notice for quite a number of years it went about the same. And we kept thinking that things would get better. We'd have, a lot of this comes from permits and the rest. The building boom hasn't returned. Our costs go up. And we do have some reserves, which we have been using. And they're running out. But let's see. Not that that's a great bearing, but what we're dealing with. In 14-15 fiscal year, we lost $179,000. 15-16, we're projected to lose $83,000. And the proposed budget that we've just come up with for 16-17 has a loss of 36, which we hope we can correct with some changes in payroll and other adjustments within the agency.
That's within the Neshoba Boards of Health, is what you
Yes,
said?
yeah. That's the assessment from Neshoba. But don't spend it all in one place because the nursing went up. It went up 5%, she also put in 4. So it's gonna be 1% higher than what she has there. It works out to about a $69 increase for what she had in your figures.
So 5234. $51.65 plus, did you say $69?
I thought it was roughly
So what?
521384 for the nursing, 3.84 is the nursing number.
Questions for Mr. Slade?
No.
Ted?
I'm okay.
Okay.
All right.
I owe you an answer on about the,
Well monitoring for 15.
Yes.
Oh, and so you were explaining the history when I interrupted you, and so you're looking for it to continue. So first of all, how long has been paying these monitoring charges, and what do you think is a year in which we can safely say goodbye?
the gas bill occurred in the late 80s and I think was discovered around 92. Late 80s, early 90s, about 92. And, the monitoring was part of the cleanup at that time. The cleanup itself, I think, was completed somewhere about 98. And we've just been monitoring ever since and not having to do any more work. How long? I don't know. I can try to ask some people.
The monitoring of the landfill, I assume, just sort of goes on forever.
Massachusetts, there are some professionals that have very good lobbyists. It's a nice cash cow.
So of the 61 that you're requesting for this year, do you have a sense of how much of that is the landfill? And I can understand that when it's
No,
going
I
on.
really can't, these are the ones that are not in the landfill itself. I imagine Mr. Brown will be in with some that he has to have in the landfill itself. These are the ones down on
Yeah,
or in the vicinity of the homes.
yeah. So let's go at it a different way. The gas, do you know what that monitoring costs? Since that's the one that's likely, if there's a chance of any of them going away.
Yeah, I've got to go do some homework
All right.
and look up exactly which.
Is it the same
Yeah, it's the same.
engineer that does?
Yeah. Yeah, he's checking for stuff from, that could come from the landfill.
Could come from, yeah.
All right. So for, you guys want to hold off? I mean, I don't, regardless of what Mr. Slade, finds out.
Right, I don't think that,
Number, they're
The number-
not
the number-
going away.
right,
number
exactly.
one.
No, I don't think
And
we need
this
to
is
hold on.
last
Yeah,
year,
this-
it's not
Exactly. I'm just
pertinent to-
interested in knowing what the deal is.
Yeah.
I am too,
Is-
it's not on here.
Provided some different numbers within human services. That one's decreased, but there's at the same time a slight increase in nursing.
Nursing, yeah.
How many years of running together?
Yeah. So I'll entertain a motion to accept Board of Health nursing lines 439, 510, 522. And relative to those numbers, a budget of 6,100 for well monitoring, 439. Human services, numbers as is, except the adjustment to 11,425 and Neshoba Board of Health. And then in nursing, the number is 5213. Anyone
So
interested?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of accepting those lines, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Sir, thank you very much for the work that you do.
Thank you. Oh, we're just up there having a ball.
Oh, I can imagine.
I am fortunate, we have a very good group of people. Our town nurse, Tamara Bedard, is outstanding. And we catch a lot of things that the feds and their great programs don't, and we're very long on help for the elderly. Once you get to that point, we do have people that sort of lose their way in their late 40s and early 50s before and they're struggling with life in general and the high speed of our society, and that's what we try to fill that gap. She does very, very well with these people. Mr. Brookings has been with us for over 20 years as our sanitarian, and he can go to his records and tell you what he did 20 years ago to the day. I mean, it's just outstanding, and I know one of the things that I really enjoyed, or made me feel good at the time, I remember 4 or 5 years ago, the Globe did a big spotlight that school lunchrooms were being poorly managed, refrigerators full of rotten food, blah, 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 blah. So I called and I said, do we have anything to worry about? And Bridget said, no, all the inspections have been done. I have a record of all the infractions, which were very minor, and a record of re-inspection of the corrections. Beautiful. Boy, is it nice. Mud's flying, your crew is strack.
Yeah?
But they do a very good job for us. That makes life a lot easier rather than having bumblings in the field. But you have to catch
Sure.
up.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Nice to meet you.
All right. So up next, we got building inspector. Yeah. Sounds like he's coming.
I think he is.
See Chris, the white Chris eyes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Come on in, sir.
How you doing?
Good.
Nice to see everyone again.
Yeah. you.
A yearly visit.
Yes, all right, so we are on, let's see, line 241 here. All right. So what do you got for us this year?
$300 I'm gonna give you. We had projected the 300 in the training because we went level funded as requested.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see through the years, we've budgeted that, but I haven't been using it.
All right,
And I'm just gonna give it to you guys to take it.
all right.
Basically, on my training, I'm more full-time for another community, so
You're all trained up.
I'm just taking the time when I take there, just,
Suck the other communities.
well, that's where I get my benefits from, so it's all
Beautiful.
right. Yeah,
So
we
for
budgeted it.
everything you
Yeah,
can,
yeah,
please.
yeah, yeah. And I can only do it out of one community, I can't tell you I'm using it and I'm not using it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. And
Basically, if you want me to just quickly,
wages.
nothing's really changed at all, Very basic, we've actually been very busy. We just started to slow down now,
Mhm.
believe it or not, within the last week. Other than that, before the bad weather hit, everybody was like full guns.
Sure.
Full guns. Lunenburg, everyone was busy. I think everybody took advantage. We usually generally will see a slowdown, for the winter months. You get the big rush, everybody trying to wrap up, and then all of a sudden, everybody gets caught up, got their
Yeah.
foundations in, and then the cold weather hits. And then, then there'll be other things like pellet stoves, remodeling and stuff, but we stayed right up to it. Usually, we would find a little bit of a slowdown come like, mid-December, but here we are, almost mid-January, and
And as a collective, from last year to all through the year, what would you say was?
busy, very
Yeah.
busy, very busy. Yeah, very busy. I haven't looked at, like, the number of permits have to be 230, 250. I didn't look in the town report to jog my memory on the actual permits last year, but we've been very busy, very busy.
So I saw an article in the paper about solar Bolton and just knowing full well that people are putting solar panels on their houses and needing permits for all that.
Oh, yeah.
And so I presume you're seeing an uptick in that area?
Actually, quite a few,
Yeah.
quite a few. A lot of solar, increasing more and more and more every year. I did see an article online, or I read, and they said something like the need for solar for the next 30 years is just, you can't even catch up to it. And it just keeps going, it just keeps going. And the systems are coming down in cost. There's all different types of deals out there, but they are a code compliant, code permitting, utility that needs to be, it's a structure and it gets permitted, and there's a lot of talk about them, and between fire departments and things like that, of these panels being live on the roof and how does that work, but they're working all the bugs out of them, and they've really come a long way.
So that group they're looking to put together a consortium, if you will. It'd be nice if they reach out to you to.
They actually have, I did get a call, I believe it was either last Tuesday or Saturday morning, probably Saturday morning, I think I got a call from a gentleman saying they're considering doing solar, and they want to know how many permits we actually did of solar.
Yeah.
I directed them to Jennifer upstairs to get it off of the, the computer. But, sounds like, it's a good thing. I know I'm gonna be also speaking to the selectmen. They invited me in on Thursday to talk a little bit about the stretch code and how that works. So Bolton is a non-stretch code community, Lunenburg is a stretch code community. I've actually built my own personal house in a stretch code community, so I'm pretty familiar, obviously, with the code requirements, but I'm gonna give them a little bit of background on that, so I guess there might be something coming to town meeting or something.
No, so I guess from my perspective, it seems this group putting together this, it seems potentially a good idea. Assuming that takes place, I guess where I'm going with this is I would like for them to, tie you in, so you're not getting hammered, right? And there's a backlog, right? I would like to think that there could be a decent number of people.
It depends on how they approach it and how many people take action right away.
And isn't
I
that
mean,
the
who's
whole
gonna be
issue
doing
of the
the-
state cap?
Well, there's
Yeah.
caps relative to the percentages, depending on the community, but there are caps, and it's all relative to what the percentages is. I believe it's a 1% commercial, or 2% commercial, or 1 or 2% for residential.
They're still-
That's what they are.
Yeah.
Some places have like filled up. Now they're trying to get legislation to increase those percentages, but that's, until they do it, it is what it is. But right now, I believe there's no stopping right now, at least in Bolton. Lunenburg, there are certain areas of town that don't have the infrastructure anymore, from what I've been told. That's why we don't see as many coming now, but we had a rational, and we had tons of them in Bolton, tons of them.
Any other questions, guys?
No, I'm fine.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep, so I'll entertain a motion to accept Building Inspector 241 for $30,078 total.
So moved.
You took the 300? or-
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
You just took-
So we want to second that?
Who was second?
Yeah, second.
Somebody.
Sorry.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Sir, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, good to see you again. I'm sure they'll be in touch with me on the other thing,
All right.
on the solar. Take care.
All right.
It's interesting that the housing inspector sees, building inspector sees this amount of activity in the Board of Health. Didn't see anything, that they were running at a loss because permits were still way down. Seems to be a contradiction there. I guess there are no financial implications of it, except maybe the Board of Health, the Neshoba region will stop running deficits if the building inspector sees is true.
Many of these constructions that Mike was talking about might not be ready at the point for them to,
To do the health part.
To do the health, I don't know.
either,
It's just-
yeah.
Well, you might
Or
see-
you need building permits for additions and
Right.
and a lot
Right.
of remodeling and stuff that, you know, well, I can't sell my house at a profit, so I might as
That's
well
right.
remodel it. But that doesn't involve the Board of Health,
Yeah.
so.
Maybe the building inspector's just confused on what town he was
But
talking
there's a
about.
lot of new houses coming.
There are, yeah.
So we're a little early, guys, and conservation was supposed to be coming in at 8:15, they canceled. So, what's that?
Capital.
Yeah. So,
It's just us two.
Oh, okay.
fabulous.
Okay.
Come on down.
All right.
Wow. Thank you.
How are you guys this evening?
Not too bad. How are you?
Excellent.
We had a sickness from our chairman, so we did not formally meet, but we can give you guys kind of a rough outline of what we're looking at.
That'd be great.
So it looks like nothing submitted from the schools.
Heard that.
We've got submissions from ambulance, kind of a heads up or a planning exercise from fire. And really, the bulk of it, almost the entirety of it, is from DPW. So we were thinking our first action would be to get together as a group and meet with Harold, go over his requests in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, we try to meet at his.
Nothing from Mr. Cleary?
No,
No?
Wow. He's been in school every other day, it seems like, looking at the roof, looking at windows, looking at doors.
he's historically been very good about getting us like a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
So I think we'll reach out to him and try and make that request that he gets it in front of us, but nothing on the docket for this year. Fire gives us a heads up for fiscal 18 for a replacement apparatus. He's calling it E4. I don't recall what unit that is, but that's a $250,000 request. That's next year, that's fiscal 18, there's nothing of this year. And in terms of the rest of his 5-year schedule, he has nothing, so that's a pretty straightforward one.
What is that, actually?
That's the desired four-wheel drive. It's like a Ford it was explained to me as like a Ford F-250 or a Ford F-450 to go in and fight brush fires. It's smaller, drive it right into the woods.
And
Doesn't
so
matter, it's not until
we-
next year. Doesn't matter.
All kind of matters.
I think we'll still bring him in and just have a more of a planning conversation and get better educated, to grease the skids a little bit. But yes, it's not this year, it is next
I
year.
wonder how many
Whatever happens to the other?
Still in
Have
the,
any?
still in the works.
I'm sure we do.
We had one near my place about 5 years ago, and they used that apparatus they want to replace.
Okay.
It seemed to work fine 5 years ago, but it did look a little old even then, so.
He's been good about getting us a schedule of, this is the useful life of all of the things, this is what we're looking at, going out a few years. And good at entertaining our questions, so I think it's a worthwhile exercise to bring him in and at least talk to him.
Very good.
Ambulance, one request for this year, it's for $15,000, is Margie in and we'll talk to her and get better educated, but it sounds like a Lucas chest compression system. It's some sort of a CPR aid in lieu of folks doing it manually.
So it would be a device that would exercise the compressions rather than the EMT doing it, because they're saying that it's physically demanding, and it allows the EMT to focus on the airway of, making sure there's proper airflow into the body, as well as the patient can then be moved without, stopping the compressions.
And that's 15.
15, yeah. She's got here as a heads up, gave me some sticker shock at first, but replacement of the ambulance, which effectively we replaced this year, but it's a 5-year out item, so fiscal 2021 at a cost of $275. So she calls this scheduled replacement and says every 5 years it should be replaced. So this is her just doing a decent job of getting us out on the radar, but it's 5 years out.
Yeah,
What is that she's talking about?
2021.
No, I mean the amount.
275. And then really the bulk is from DPW. What's the figure you did on the back of your envelope?
So DPW is proposing $894,000 for FY 2017, with, $87,000 of that could move to 2018, but those that chunk would become mandatory at that time. So that would be a $65,000 sander and a $22,000 culvert that could move to 2018.
So then we're at 700 plus. instead of-
You're at 807 with those being moved out.
So that is the F Crew Cab 104, new backhoe,
Yep.
157 Berlin Road culvert, Wilder Road culvert, replacement of lights, 117 Long Hill Road culvert, public safety building, those.
That's all added up.
I was confused by the replacement of lights, but my memory could be foggy. Didn't we pay for that last year, or approve it at
So
that meeting?
we appropriated money
Okay,
for it. There's been some initial inquiries
okay.
as to what it would cost, and it doesn't appear as though, so that was the number, right? It's 270.
He doesn't put a number on it this year. I don't know if there was, I'm sure there was a number from last year.
So what I can say, and I don't have the specifics, yes, there is money that was appropriated, and once there's been some inquiry into looking at what it's gonna take to fix that, and
Okay.
the numbers coming in are significantly higher than was appropriated.
last year, okay.
Hey,
I don't think it was appropriated, it was, borrowing was approved, right?
yeah, but,
We voted to borrow, that money, but
Do you remember how
we don't borrow it until
It's
we
needed.
spend it.
it's 240 or 270?
But there's also engineering money that was budgeted.
Oh,
We can't
okay.
borrow that, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I think on the engineering side, it turned out that the number we had got from the state was, normally you take a certain percentage of the cost, and that's kind of what the engineering is going to be. And those numbers were off because the state was going to do a lot of that with in-house
Okay.
people, but since we're doing it on our dime, we don't have that luxury, so there's some
Additional
engineering that's gonna need to be,
Yeah, we thought that was expensive for the state.
yeah.
Now it's even more. So what made us believe the state was going to do it
What made us.
in-house?
That's what they've told, that's what they've,
If we had given them 117, they were gonna do the lights.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so they got a little upset. No. Okay. So that was all
What was it?
contingent on. only
20,000 for
117.
engineering and 250,000 in the borrowing.
Something like that.
Those were the numbers, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that.
One of the things we talked to Harold about in years past was culverts. They're big ticket items. And he has adopted a methodology of slip lining them, if as and when they need to be replaced, but they have not yet gotten too terribly bad. He's got in his 5-year planning some examples of slip lining. None of them are this year, so some of them, and I haven't seen them yet, must be in pretty bad shape. Berlin Road at 268 and Wilder Road at 186. Do you know where the Berlin Road one is?
I'm pretty sure I do.
Rough shape?
My house.
Okay.
No, it seems fine to me.
Yeah.
I suppose, I don't know anything, I'll be driving over it someday, it'll. fall
Someday it will not
probably.
work.
But I don't notice anything
Okay.
terribly wrong with it now.
But if the rocks and stuff inside have shifted and you can't slip line it, then
You're starting from
you're kind of out of luck, so.
My impression has been that Harold's estimates on the culverts have generally turned out high. It would possibly be useful to go back and
Okay.
see what did he ask for and what did they really come in at? Because, you know,
Okay.
once we do the borrowings, these things get into the tax rate and you're dealing with it for forever. I mean, we substitute project into what we've raised the taxes for, so it'd be nice if we didn't raise the taxes in the first place and every project had to stand on its own.
So we as a committee, the capital planning, we have the first half of that equation. We can go back in our notes and look in years past, what was requested. We can present that to you guys, because I don't think we have the information as to what was actually spent.
Yeah, I can get you guys some of that. The other thing, as you're going through this, I had spoken to Mike a little bit about, now that we are in receipt of 117 and all of the expenses that come from that, what is that looking like, moving forward on everything that the expenses were delayed on? Number one. Number two, we got into this little conversation last week. Folks seem to think that it's not possible within a DPW environment, and I will admit, I haven't looked since last week, but I do believe that there's the possibility of being able to lease equipment on a DPW standpoint. So I had spoken with Harold probably a month ago,
Yep.
and asked that as he's looking at these numbers, and I've had a subsequent follow-up with Dawn, that if, as these numbers come before you guys, come before us, if we could take a look at, what does that actually mean? And I know as of late, there's been this conversation, there's the track of heading down the road of purchasing used, sanders, a used sander at $60,000, $80,000, and then whatever it is, 5 years later, we're dumping another $40,000, $60,000 into it, or getting a new sander body for $70,000 versus a new sander at, $180,000 or $200,000. And again, I don't know what the answer is, but I do think there needs to be a deeper analysis, on this. Is the right answer continued, used equipment, beat the hell out of it, and just dump it, more into it?
purchase new equipment?
Purchase
lease
new,
equipment?
or I think there needs to be a greater conversation around leases. And again, I'm not saying the entire town shifts to a lease. And, we went through this exercise with police a few years ago, and Connie and I were involved with it, and I remember at the time, I saw the numbers, and I'll even admit, I didn't think it was a good idea to go to a lease.
Okay.
At least on a police cruiser. At the same time, I don't think we did a thorough enough analysis of what lease versus buy means. And the usage of these things is dramatically different than a police car that, is gone, according to the police department, after 3 years. So,
We'll have the conversation again this year with Harold. It was a focus for us last year, but it was more of a philosophical conversation than it was a numbers crunching analysis. He seemed to be in favor of an alternative, be it take a lease route or hire third-party contractors to come in. And it sounds like on some select basis, with respect to plowing, he is doing that now. But then you look at this schedule of 5 years, and there's a whole ton of purchased equipment here.
well, exactly.
I
So,
agree
yeah.
with you. There should be a conversation.
Yeah, and so I've spoken to Dawn about this, because it also tied in with, one of the folks that was previously with you guys, Bill Bergen, was with us, and he got us, I think it was at the time that he was with you guys, he was looking at the idea of some type of fleet management software.
Yep.
And so that was a conversation with Don. So, there's that information, but yeah, I think, the whole lease analysis needs to be, greater discussed on that. Dave?
Lease, third-party operator, or both?
I'm sorry?
A lease analysis, a third party, like, let's bring a contractor in and use
Yeah,
his
so
equipment?
that'd be great, and you're right, he is already doing that to some extent. He hires, at subs, folks in the department that do it, and then he hires on. Yeah, I think that's a greater, conversation on, because that has far-reaching impact of, salaries and compensation, all that stuff. That would be fabulous, but for the time being, I'm simply looking at what he's saying that we need right now for this coming year.
That's a good number.
Yeah, it is a big number, and again, so, one, the collective need, and also, just so you guys, I shared it with the other committee members, I'm working on compiling just a list of all equipment, just so we all have one central, right? So yeah, it's the whole lease versus buy, and then, contingent, versus, and they're not necessarily tied in. I mean, if we were gonna hire someone, which I believe is the case now, they come in with all their own equipment, do they not?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah. It's fabulous. When it breaks, go fix it.
yeah.
See it. Yeah.
A problem with leases, I think, is usually they don't take advantage of the municipal tax deduction. So you're sort of getting the same kind of lease rate that a taxable corporation would. And what I think ought to be analyzed is borrowing for a lot of these things without getting an exclusion. And then you make some kind of assumption of what the town's cost of capital is. And since the people in the town are taxable, I think they ought to be taking more advantage of the tax exempt. I mean, you could probably get a 5-year loan on a lot of this stuff for under 2% now. And I don't think the leasing people can assume that lower rate. And you could keep the tax rate down that way, and if you make some assumption about what the town's alternatives are with their money, I think that might be the cheapest way to go in terms of a present cost to the people of the town, borrowing at a very low municipal rate.
Right now, we're not using bands for these things, it's cash.
Oh, we do, but we do for the ones we we finance, but we buy a lot of the stuff outright. And what I'm arguing for is keep the budget and the taxes down now, push the thing out, but push it out at a really low cost, a cost that is lower than what the people in the town could do with the money as an alternative. Now, I would guess the average person in town has a credit card balance, and they almost certainly have a mortgage. And even if you've been real good and you've got a 3.5% mortgage, and you don't have any credit card balance, it's still better to keep your money and have the town borrow it. The bands are under 1%.
Okay.
So, that's the kind of analysis I'd like to see, along with the lease. I mean, I think we need to look into that too. But I think what made the lease not work well on the police cars was that the assumed interest rate was a lot higher than a municipal rate.
Yeah, again, it would be, you know, in my opinion, it seems like it's almost a full-time job, right? Which, to run through that analysis, I go back to, I think I made the comment last week, these major municipalities, and then I don't relate Bolton to a major municipality, but I also, you know, think that if major municipalities are, you know, and major corporations, right, are leasing their equipment, everything they possibly can, then they have to be onto something, right? And we're not.
Tax law, taxes depreciate it all.
Yeah.
Right up front.
So we're not fully, you know.
Major municipalities may be able to get their lower municipal rates into the leases somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. So, so the game plan for you guys is you're gonna meet with those folks that have submitted requests, and the time period is capped off, right? There's no more coming, at least.
Correct,
as
this
far
is
as
what
we
we're
know.
looking at. Yeah.
So you'll be meeting with the department heads to better understand what's going on for this year, and then we'll look to put together a ranking for us, and tell me a little bit more about the overall 5-year plan.
So these guys, they've been pretty good this year. We've tried to develop them over the past few years, and this year they look pretty clean. Just getting the folks, we haven't sat down and analyzed it too closely, but getting the different departments to give us a sense of what's coming down the pipe. We keep notes as of the past few years, and I think a good comparison between what they're projecting this year, what they were projecting last year, the year before, will give us a good sense of have priorities changed, has stuff shifted around, have things gone out, has a whole bunch of stuff increased that wasn't there before, and I think that spawns a pretty big dialogue. The biggest dialogue will be with DPW, just based on the volume of what we're looking at here. I think this year, in terms of number of requests, is generally pretty light, but volume of dollars is pretty heavy from DPW.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, there is a lot of, to your point of looking back on the previous years, you know, that's what I try and piece together too, from what you guys bring into us, and, you know, I look back and see, you know, I know that the request here, town hall repairs, you know, these pillars, you know, that's, I want to say 5 years running. That was on the list 5 years ago, and, you know, it comes off and it gets put back on, and so yeah, and that request from ambulance with Margie putting on, that was, I ran into her, we were talking, and that was my ask of her.
It almost sounds cute, but it's very smart, I think, you know?
Absolutely,
We just paid for it, yes, but we need to look at it in terms of what's coming down the pipe. You know?
She's, you know, we know that she has in her head an ambulance every 5 years. Yeah, we just took receipt of it. But if we're not here, right, you guys aren't there.
Yeah, sure.
That 5-year plan should still show an ambulance 5 years out. It just makes sense so that collectively, and that's what I would like all the department heads to be thinking about, that, so we as a town can look at what do we have to deal with this year? Yeah, it's the same conversation we have every year. What do we need to deal with this year? What can be put off till next? And then also know what the pipeline is ahead of.
That's why I think, despite not having a request or really any documents from the school now, we ought to get a 5-year plan refresh. He had done, probably in my opinion, a better job historically than any other department, of scheduling out and giving us some transparency as to what he was, what was on the docket at least. So we'll get that document, we'll ask him to refresh that. I think that'll be helpful.
Spending it was always another problem.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and even, forgive me for mentioning fire, but I'm gonna mention fire, just give you a heads up. The fire department, you know, there's all the money in hoses, right? There's, if I remember correctly, he was gonna start to put together a chart for you guys to have some line of sight into on what's the inventory of hoses and what's the collective analysis, you know. And that same model can be applied to all of the various, you know, pieces of equipment. I mean, we appropriated money for him for cribbing, which I learned what that was, and was shocked to think that we didn't have any, or they were making up their own, or whatever it was. So, you know, I think that's important to have a sense of, again, what is there, and what's coming down the pipe. And not just, you know, big vehicle purchases, things like that.
You know, it's kind of unfortunate too, when you think about the things that he's needed, it's all hit him when he's just come on board. If you think about it, all the things that the union requires to request, and we had to, we didn't have a choice. And then the fire truck, a whole lot of the things that we think, well, how was this fire department functioning before? You know, we're buying all these things now, what did they have before? Well, just is that it was very old and it just became due.
Well, that is the, yeah, so, I mean, that is partially that. I mean, there's a lot of folks in town that will say the fire truck wasn't needed, right? He got a new fire truck. Be nice if the town could take receipt of it soon.
Well, again, I'm thinking of all the apparatuses.
No, you're right.
Here that we had to buy. Those were not cheap.
You're right. It's
and
the
then
same.
water holes that were.
Yeah, it's a story that, right, there's certain requirements, mandates that come down that get put onto these various towns, right, collectively, and we've got to figure it out. And then it doesn't help a town like Bolton that when, you know, a decent time period where there was more of a focus on the nice-to-haves as opposed to the, in my opinion, the needs. Yeah, healthy amount of that purchase in there, so. All right, so you guys will be back later in the season, and we can go from there. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
No, I don't think yet.
All right.
Thank you, Bill.
I would be interested to know what Bill clearly says, because they've been talking about new roof at the school.
Okay. Which school?
High school though,
Okay.
different, but still,
We'll reach out.
kind of,
I think that they may just be in flux with all the, you know, a new structure in the school committee, and then you've got the whole issue of the interim superintendent, so that may.
I wonder if reaching out is a good idea.
Well, you gotta know.
Better than
The needs are gonna be there either way.
That's right.
so-
Well,
Don't want surprises.
In any
I'm a
event,
great believer in delay, and if you can push them back a year, you save that money.
we've got nothing from them this current fiscal year. That gate has closed in any event. So it'll be a planning exercise.
So, Mark or Tom, while you guys are here, you know, I know I was supposed to have Bob Sagansky in to give us an update on space needs. Has he come in to visit with you guys to get an update, or are you more in the know of what Connie's referring to? Because I thought I heard that as well. There's some roof concerns and windows. So regardless of what takes place
I
from
think
a
those
bigger...
are, you know, they have a capital budget themselves that doesn't come to us the way, for the high school.
Yeah.
We
It's not the
don't
same
see
as
that,
with
yeah.
Emerson
We just see,
or
we just
Sawyer.
see Emerson and Sawyer. So, unless it rises to such a big expense
Yeah.
that they need to borrow for it, then they come to
But
us.
the point is,
But they've got their own capital budget, and I think, I was at one school committee meeting, and they intended to do all that within their capital budget, the
But
roof
then-
and windows.
but it's like the doors one year. We were gonna replace the doors, and then they were gonna replace the locks after we replaced the doors, which was...
Well, that was at Emerson.
Yeah.
But to my point is, if you're going to do all those repairs, and I'm not sure what the time frame is or how much it's gonna cost, we still pay for it, in essence. We do,
Well,
it does cost us.
it comes back to us in our assessment.
Assessment.
Yeah.
So if they're planning on building a new school or making an addition, that makes a big difference in, do we wanna spend all this money on, maybe we wanna patch the roof instead of...
Well, I think that's...
No,
what
I don't know.
I think that's what they're talking
But-
about, is repairs, not a whole new roof.
Well, there are windows, they've been talking about replacing all the windows. And if you're building a new school or whatever, you don't do it now. You tend to do those things all at one time when everybody's out there
Bob
doing
presented
construction
a
and
pretty
it's cheaper.
hair-raising assessment of the high school. What was it, when he spoke to the Tri-Town meeting this last summer, about all the inadequacies.
Yeah, and he had asked to come in here, and I had him slated, and then there was a change in our schedule, and I haven't gotten him back in, so at the very least, I should have him back in, but I was also just asking the selectmen that, you know, if there's anything that, if he was coming in to see you guys, instead of having him come in two different times.
Nothing scheduled that I know of yet.
Well, you know, I'll check in with Linda, because he was gonna come, he asked to come in and talk to us.
Oh, sure.
And I said yes. So I'll see what I can do to try and get us all an update, all right?
I have a question, this is not, now that we're on school. And I was reading the article in the paper about Minuteman and the towns that will probably pull out of Minuteman. Why aren't we one of those? Why aren't we looking at Assabet? Have you had this discussion?
Assabet has no
Philip-
space.
Oh, okay.
Keith, none of the VOTECs have space, is the bottom line.
Except Minuteman.
Well, Minuteman,
They're gonna have a lot more.
they will not have a lot more, because even some of the towns that want to pull out still are intending to send their kids there. How that makes sense, I don't know.
Yeah,
because-
Well, right now
because
it
part-
makes sense.
well,
Right now it makes sense.
Under the new
because
regional
it's cheap.
agreement, it does not.
It will not, right. But it's not
Well,
due yet.
Well, it doesn't make sense for two reasons. One is one of the things that Minuteman will be doing as part of the new agreement is towns that want, non-district towns need to sign, or will be requested to sign a intermunicipal agreement to cover basically their share of the capital costs per student. And this gets a little bit dicey, but MSBA has said that on MSBA-funded projects, that they will have that same requirement, whether it's regional or what, you know, so even, you know, implying even school choice would have to pony up that money. The Department of Education is not indicated that they're in line with that. So you've got two state groups that are, you may have a difference of opinion there, but there are a couple of changes in the the Minuteman Regional Agreement, that some of the towns that had indicated they wanted to pull out may not be anymore. They've dropped there had been a 5-student minimum assessment, and they're looking at dropping that. So you just, and that may mean that Dover stays in, for example. A couple of the other towns want to get out, well, and it's unclear, well, it has to go to town meeting vote. So it's unclear whether the individual towns will actually end up acting on that. It also has to be approved by Department of Education, so the districts have to show that they have a viable alternative for the students that want or need vocational ed instead of conventional ed. So there's a lot of hurdles to get through getting out of the district, and that being said, the new school will be smaller than the current one, so.
But it still assumes a 50% increase in enrollment to fill the new one up, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Well,
So when we have a student that needs to go to Assabet, that's not, and we have 2, but they're out of space. How many do we have at Minuteman right now? Do you know?
10.
Is it 10?
I think is
9, okay.
So
So they
before,
can take a few every.
I just wanted to just say, before we go any further, happy to continue. Can we let town planning?
yes, sure. Jumping the, sorry.
You guys are welcome to
Just
stay.
been
Yeah, just, yeah.
Safe travels, guys. Good to see you all.
Sorry.
How are the roads?
They were a little dicey.
That's not commentary on,
No.
just making sure that
Right over.
Harold and department are doing an excellent job. Don't leave the room with that comment.
I'll look at that and approach it first.
No, but thank you.
So I mean, to your point, so some of the different VOTECs have some different programs. If a kid is really interested in the program that's only offered at but not at Minuteman, and there happens to be space, then
At the
time they may be able to get in. That being said, if a district town, if the students in the district filled slots, then, the visiting towns are out of luck on sending additional kids.
So that's why it's good to be a member town, because then you have,
Yeah.
you're above so many of the students.
Yeah, I mean,
From non.
member towns get
First
slot, first presence. I think the way it's gonna work is the towns that have the intermunicipal agreement signed get next priority, and the ones who want the free ride will get anything that's left.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
So,
And that also being said, and this was talked about at Tri-Town as well, is the way if they repair the building as is, they're looking at about $100 million project. After the state reimbursements come in, the new building will be about $86 million. And MSBA does not reimburse for the repairs, so therefore we would not be able to necessarily assert the capital costs onto non-district students.
Yeah, then doing a new building rather than a
Well, I'm
rebuilding
just-
makes a lot of
it's-
sense, yeah. That makes sense, it's just that they're
But
building it.
but it's just to get the numbers out there.
They're
but
building
it's
it too
also-
big.
and the time limit was 2 years ago, right?
I mean, MSBA said that they're not,
That's
they would
right.
not approve a
That's
smaller
right,
building.
that's right.
than
You're
once
right,
they're not-
If we wanted to get away from Minuteman, we would have had to make that call
You're
2
right,
years
you're
ago.
Hmm?
If we wanted to move away from Minuteman, we had to have made that call 2 years ago, because now we're locked into this financing of this.
No, we're not locked in yet. It hasn't been,
It hasn't been
it
voted on.
just hasn't been voted on yet, no.
Yeah.
The newspaper article talked about March town meetings
There will be a February 8th town meeting
for the purpose of the Minuteman.
for ratification of the amended regional agreement.
Which was turned down by a member town last year or before? a couple of
There
years
there have
ago.
been some additional modifications since then. We actually approved it 2 years
It
ago, I
was 2
think it
years,
was.
yeah.
And there have been some additional tweaks since then, like changing the minimum assessment and some things like that, that that should, you know, that will kind of placate some of those towns that we're wanting to get out or we're not supporting it. So,
Ted?
Any response to our letter about that?
All about the estimate.
Yeah,
Not yet.
so we,
Yeah. Dave, you had a question? Oh, I thought I saw your hand. All right, so any other advisory business? We're good? All right.
well,
I'll accept the motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Very
Craig?